G'day, mate. Hey, matey, put another podcast on the Bobby. That's right. 12 and 0, the Quack 12 podcast. I am your host, Adam Jamail.
And I'm laid-back Schroeder.
Jack Schroeder. Honestly, is there any other kind of Schroeder? I haven't met him, if that's the case. Aaron Schroeder, you may be asking questions like, what's with the good day, mateys, and all the Australian, the perfect Australian accent I was throwing there.
I was actually thinking that. Adam, what is up with all the good day, mateys?
Well, you see, Aaron, we've got huge news at the Quack 12 podcast. Now, this is just giant stuff here. Now, I received this in my email here in the official Quack 12 podcast Gmail, which I guess I don't plug enough, but whatever, it's Gmail.
If you want to email us.
If you want to email us, there you go. But I got this from a company called Chartable. I haven't looked them up, but I imagine they're a wonderful company, and I imagine that they're top of whatever they do. You see, they look at the charts for podcasts, and they sent us an email just a week ago. That has confirmed that we are the 82nd most listened to college football podcast in Australia. So
boom, we've made it.
Say, man, I'm proud of the podcast. We always knew we would get to a level kind of like this.
Congratulations.
Good day, mates.
Good day. No, I'm not even gonna do
it's probably a bit insulting, but
but you know what's interesting? I have a buddy that actually moved to what I used to say was Melbourne, but now I say is Melbourne.
Yes, right.
And he moved there, got married. She's from Melbourne. And I shit you not, when I talk to him now, he's actually taken on certain aspects of the dialect.
Well, that's what I want to do with the podcast, like pepper in some of this. Instead of saying the word no, I'll be like, nar.
It's a shame that neither of us are cigarette smokers, because then we could be like, we're going to take a quick smoko and we'll be right back.
They say that's cool.
Smoko is like a 15-minute cigarette break.
Oh, there you go. I like it.
Take a smoko.
They do things right over there. I'll probably add some like koalas and kangaroos and someone getting attacked by a crocodile or something like that.
Totally.
And I'll add some little graphics. I don't know if I'll have the energy to do it in this episode, but we'll see. Watchers of this at a later time will be able to see how lazy I was. But I just wanted to do a shout out to Australian listeners. Have no idea how many of them there are out there.
Hey, also, to our Australian fandom, we've already given you the email address, quack12podcast@gmail.com. If you email us, I will gratefully send you double the cost of a kangaroo steak, because I am absolutely curious to try one of these things.
So what you're saying is if they email us, their prize is they get to do our bidding for a little while.
No, email us being like, yo, I've got kangaroo steaks. I can send you one. You tell me what the cost of shipping is. I'm sure it's going to be insane.
We could go to my hometown, Medford, Oregon. You can eat a kangaroo burger there. But we're getting off at Jasper's. Shout out to Jasper's. We're getting off topic here because technically this is an Oregon Ducks podcast. And we just had a huge win, Aaron.
That's right, Adam.
Blimey, it was huge, man.
And, I do want to bring up a side point, but it explains a lot. You may notice I'm a bit more relaxed looking today.
You are looking
a little bit more laid back.
Pretty laid back.
That's because I just got done eating a giant bag of potato chip Kellys, and they were delicious.
Oh,
I took the whole thing down.
I don't know why you hate Chip Kelly, but I dig it.
I don't get why everyone loves him.
Because he was our coach and took us to levels we had never seen before.
But literally,
you're a baby Ducks fan.
Even during the game, the announcers were talking about how Chip Kelly just was far superior to Cristobal. And I'm like, why does this dude's a dejected NFL coach. Why does anybody think he's actually a good?
I'll tell you this, man. Well, he changed the game. He changed the game of college football is one of the reasons why. I'll tell you this.
Oh, did he?
DTR.
Okay.
Our
Here
future
it is. Yet again, I've shown off my wonderful ignorance for the game.
Yeah, my man. Completely. But we'll get into that later, I guess.
All
I
right,
mean,
I'll
I don't know how
Google
you didn't
Chip Kelly,
pick
I
up
guess.
on this. So we were talking about our future guest Hythloday here, who we'll bring on in a bit.
From the future.
He had a tweet that said DTR deserves game ball. The way he was just fighting for those extra yards, making like solid passes, making smart decisions too. I mean, yeah, he had some turnovers. But still, yeah, he was impressive as hell, especially for someone who I've ragged on quite a bit as just like a poor man's version of Jaden Daniels. DTR really came out fighting. Who knows what would have happened if he was actually on that final drive, because we had Baby Garbers, or I guess Baby Garbers. Yeah. Baby Garbers comes out and looks like he was going to win the whole thing.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because in my head I went, oh my God, Baby Garbers? But then I immediately understood what his actual nickname is. It's Gerbers.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's
so
forever.
When Gerbers hit the field, I also was like,
Gerbers.
What family is this? I need to meet and have Thanksgiving dinner with this family who is just creating pretty decent looking quarterbacks
that lose to Oregon. Ethan Garbers,
which I'm fine with. Yeah.
Those that last second pick. And once again, isn't it amazing, Aaron? Like this game, first of all, we were down 14 points early on, and we looked like that was some of the worst football we've played. We looked truly bad.
Did you actually get to see the first quarter? Because
I went over to ESPN
of the
News.
9-time overtime of the game before, it clicked over to them going, and welcome to the game, and we'll be right back with the second quarter.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I went over to ESPN News. I watched that first quarter. It was brutal. You know, you just missed us looking bad. I mean, so they marched down the field like everyone seemingly does against us on that opening drive. They go 12 plays, 75 yards, and they get the score.
Wow.
And then we turn it over on downs, actually, at the UCLA 34 on 4th and 2. Travis Dye only picks up one of those yards instead. And then on the very next
Where was that
play,
at?
That was at the UCLA 34.
Okay.
So they get the ball. Yeah, instead of the field goal would have been quite a field goal. And I don't know. Who knows? I think we've got a great kicker, but I don't want to test it with the 51-yard field goal.
You know, didn't he miss an extra point?
Yes.
And didn't it just go like boink?
I think so. I don't quite remember it. But
it was a donger.
On the next drive, so UCLA starts the ball, gets the ball on the next drive, and it's a DTR pick. And and again, it was because the pressure got to him, and the pressure was just endless. And Kayvon Thibodeau it's just so fun to have a player on defense to be like, I'm watching, like, just like you do for, quarterback on offense, to be like, my eye finds number 5 and watches him throughout this thing. And it was wonderful. Like,
beautiful stuff.
You do feel bad for the quarterbacks at times.
Oh, I feel like I'm going to do a terrible job of talking about the game, honestly, because there's too many other things I want to discuss about this game.
Well, to be fair, I mean, how different would that be from any other episode of the
true
podcast?
But I assumed you would bring this up out of the gate. What did you think of the uniforms?
Oh, I thought they made me hungry for sweets because I got a big sweet tooth and it looked like a McFlurry or something like that, which I haven't had in years. We're not sponsored by McDonald's, by the way. I kind of like them. I made a joke where it was like on our Twitter account at Quack12 Podcast. This joke was not well liked, but I'll say it again for the show. It was really fitting for Eugene because everything is covered in black mold, and it really did kind of look black moldy. It looked like someone left out the regular clean white uniforms on Autzen, like just out in the rain in Autzen, and then they brought it in. They're like, this will do. But I thought they were cool enough. I don't know. We wanted them, so I like them.
I didn't like them, but then I also same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't like this look, because I was like, they just look like they are in fact dirty, which I get, mud ducks.
Mud
But
ducks.
they're like on AstroTurf, I think. Maybe it was real ground. I don't know. I was like, it'd be cool to come out in the second half in these after having worn all white in the first half.
I like that idea. Change.
I would have done a halftime
there's
costume
no
thing.
time to like game plan for the second half because everyone's doing their little costume change.
Exactly.
I love that idea. I love it.
Look, football is theater, okay? So let's zhuzh it up a little bit.
Yeah. So Aaron,
sorry,
we're down 14 points.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Because even though we get the turnover, we're forced to punt, just 3 and out, and then they get a touchdown 4 plays later, just flying down the field. Then, but then, my man Travis Dye, who was just phenomenal in this game, obviously, he gets 4 touchdowns. My man gets 4 touchdowns. I believe it was like the only player to get consecutive touchdowns. I'd have to look at it again.
Dude, I'm pretty sure he got all 4 of them in a row.
Yeah,
our
in
first
a row, like
20, our first 27 points. Shit. Okay, the first 4 touchdowns are his touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely. I also do believe that. So he only came in at like goal line situations, which it's like you look at him and it's like he's not that kind of back. He's not the kind of, technically Cardwell would be more like that.
Also, he is also awarded best footage of the game, even though it was not considered a touchdown, from the pylon, whatever that orange stick.
Pylon. That's right.
Pylon. The pylon camera where it had him elbow down, but then he like he goes into the camera, so it's like just face.
Well, plus I'll say best screen time in general because that mustache is so sick.
Dude, so sick.
Mustache looks great. I love him.
Love him.
Yeah, so we're up all of a sudden, and then it looks like, oh, we're solid. We're gonna win this thing, like easy maybe.
Right.
But then, of course, we had another fumble from Chris Hudson. That was a huge moment that kind of changed things. And Chris Hudson's having a pretty tough season because he was called for that spinning the ball. He's had a couple of costly fumbles. We're wishing him luck. He's talented, but tough rookie campaign.
Would you say his head is not in the game quite yet?
I mean, I think it's in the game. I think he's just got to learn to freaking hold on to the ball. I don't know what to say other than that. He'll get it. I mean, he's young. He's really young.
Yeah.
And then of course we have because like apparently every fucking Oregon Ducks game, and yes, I curse. We'll get into that later. Apparently every Oregon Ducks game, you have to have an Anthony Brown. The final touchdown needs to be a giant touchdown run from Anthony Brown because this one was the a 43-yard. It was set up so perfectly. DJ Johnson too, just plowing through. It was a 43-yard touchdown run from Anthony Brown, 34-17. That puts us up. But that was the moment. It really felt like, oh, Anthony Brown, best game of the season, like possibly better than even Ohio State. I don't know at that point
because
he is just
even before that run-in touchdown. I do believe there was a flag, so he had a free play, and he dropped a deep one, and we caught it.
Yeah, well, he was
throwing some deep balls. Some didn't work out so great, but that one did.
He was definitely, I would definitely say, like the intermediate passing game because we've seen a lot of short, seen a lot of screens, RPO, and like we were seeing that in this too. But like finally, especially in that like third quarter when he was just locking on to Pittman, kind of. But we just saw a lot more passes, like 10 to 20 yards.
Yep.
Like being caught 10 to 20 yards out, and that felt really good. And so like it felt like, oh man, his like way to go, Anthony Brown. And he's like, no, it's not an Oregon game unless it comes down to the fucking wire, apparently, because he throws 2 picks The first pick was first pick felt like, yeah, sometimes you're gonna throw a pick, I don't
Yeah,
know.
sometimes you gotta throw one.
And like a lot of people are like, he just straight up didn't see the guy. Like he's kind of like, if you look at the footage, he's kind of like sitting like in the UCLA like blue on the field and blends in perfect. And it's like, whatever, that's a mistake. That other fourth quarter pick was freaking hard to
The
swallow,
fourth
especially
quarter
because it's
pick after just an
the
amazing
deep
drive that he
the
dropped in
deep
the
to the
end
end
zone, and
zone. Yeah, and it was like all we got. We're trying to kill the clock here.
yes,
And it seems like from post game stuff, it does seem like there was some idea to go deep down the field. Like, not just Anthony Brown being like, oh, I definitely want to do this, but it sounds like there was some kind of like plan to do that. But when that's the plan, you either got to freaking nail that pass or take the huge amount of yardage in front of you just with your legs, like what you normally do. Like it would, in that point of the game, that was really tough to freaking swallow. And if DTR was like healthy, and let's say he just does a miracle drive and they freaking tie this game or win this game,
timeout.
people would be flipping out after that.
Who is DTR?
Dorian Thompson Robinson, the quarterback for UCLA, my
Thompson
man.
Robinson, right?
Once again, Aaron Schroeder doesn't. He does pay attention at the moment to college football because we've had this podcast for, I don't know, 4 or
But I
5
mean,
years.
I would say I probably know 40% of the Oregon Ducks names.
In and out. But that's fine because you're here for the vibe. You're here for a vibe check, really.
Yeah.
That coffee pot looks really cool. Gotta
Okay.
say. With the green screen, just saying. Yeah, so but we stop them with another pick, which is fun to, Hythloday said this, and I think a lot of people were thinking this. It's like we got super lucky, obviously, in the turnover battle for a real long stretch.
Yep.
And then suddenly, like it kind of dried up for the last couple of games. It came back on. It went both ways. You got to give UCLA's defense some credit there. But it came back. We got our, I believe we forced what? I want to say 3. Yeah, we each got 3 turnovers. Each team got a fumble or forced a fumble, and each team picked off the other team twice.
Thank God we got that last one too, because woof.
Whew, what a hell of a game. Am I
Beautiful.
right? It was really fun to watch. Technically, I would say this is the toughest team on paper that we should have for the remainder of the season until the Pac-12 championship game, in which we'll play maybe ASU, maybe Utah, maybe UCLA again.
Question
on paper. Yes.
Where does UCLA rank in comparison to Ohio State?
Oh,
As far as, like,
way lower. Like not
So
even.
Ohio State is even better than UCLA.
Ohio State is playing a different game practically. It's because their roster is flushed with so much more talent. The roster's been managed so much better. They have so much of a clear identity.
I'm very
Ohio
interested
State.
to talk to Hythloday then about the UCLA game, because I was assuming because we were having a tough time with them, they were on par with Ohio State.
My man, that's this season though. Every team we play, we make it look like the Ohio State game. Like it's like a back and forth thing. Sometimes we're trail. Like every freaking game's got to be.
That's true.
One score. I don't know why. Can't explain it. But injuries. That's a good way to just write it all off. Aaron, what are your final thoughts? We are 6-1 at this point in the season. We got 5 games left. Before we bring on Hythloday, I'd like to hear your thoughts on where we're at right now. 6-1.
Yeah, we're unstoppable at this moment. I don't have any fears about anything. I think we will probably win all 5 games. We should absolutely be going to the playoffs after we win the champs. And then if we lose the in the playoffs, that's probably fine. but I think we deserve to be there. I think if anyone still has issues with Anthony Brown Jr., they should shut up about it.
Anthony Brown
because
Jr. Yeah.
he's my best friend.
I love it.
And also, Die just absolutely is a jaw dropper.
Yeah, Die is what a
also
what a
hope he goes to the Seahawks.
I love it.
I want my favorite Ducks to go to the Seahawks.
Well, Ugo Amadi,
we need him, baby.
Ugo Amadi on the Seahawks. I've always loved seeing him, and he seems to have been really thriving there. But we're getting
when you're one game on the season. But I diverge.
That's our Seahawks corner. That's our Seahawks minute. That's it. We got it every episode. So let's bring in our man from Addicted to Quack. Where he is the resident film reviewer. You can read his articles, Duct Tape. They're fantastic, coming out every week.
Absolutely.
Looking ahead at their opponent and looking behind at the game that they just played. Really fantastic reads. That is
a fantastic guy that writes them.
Yeah, he's a great person. Hythloday. Hythloday, my man, what a game that was. What are your thoughts?
So I think the right way to think about this game is that it's 2 14-0 runs by UCLA at the beginning of the game and the end of the game.
Wow.
And a 34-3 run by Oregon in the middle of the game. And the 34-3 run in the middle of the game is the real game.
Yeah.
And the
interesting.
The first 14-0 run by UCLA is a scripted drive, which is why Chip Kelly's a mad genius. Like, I don't think he's been a great coach for UCLA, but the one thing that he was doing this at Oregon too. Like, if you go back and watch Oregon's films during the years he was there, like, he scripts the first drive or so and puts in wacky stuff and gets a touchdown to start out. It's why, you'll find Oregon fans be like, I feel like, if Oregon wins the flip, they should take the ball first because they're definitely going to score, and then they'll put the opponent behind the chains the entire game. And the reason that they believed that was because Chip Kelly scripts drives. And so it's like, boy, it was really, as a pure football fan, like, it was actually really fun to watch that drive because he threw the kitchen sink the Ducks. There were so many, like, having done film study on those, so many like tendency breakers and weird plays. There's a play in which they line up their long snapper as a wide receiver. But because he's wearing the 51 jersey, then they have like their tight end fake being the right tackle, and then he releases. Kayvon Thibodeau blows up that play and it winds up not hurting the Ducks, but like, there's all sorts of weird and wacky stuff that he puts in that. And then there's the blocked punt, right. So anyway,
Oregon's, and there was like 6 blocked punts or like messed up punts in the Pac-12.
Yeah,
really.
Saturday. It was nuts.
Yeah, no, basically you see it, you just sort of got to take that punch. UCLA was going to score on its first drive. There's no other way to put it. That was going to happen. And then, the block punt gave them a short field and they scored again. And so, looking down, the 14-0 hole, and then Oregon pops off 5 consecutive touchdowns.
Wow.
And the only thing that UCLA does at all during most of the game is that right before the second half field goal drive, which was assisted by a couple of improbable events. Let's leave it there. And then, and so like, to the point where the game is 34-17, right? Like, the game is effectively over. There's a point when it's, when UCLA, it's 4th and 18 and they go for it and throw the ball. And like, that's a classic sign that garbage time has begun, that the opponent has gone into desperation mode. And I continued to chart the game after that point. Because there's some interesting stuff, and frankly, the numbers don't actually really change at all if I exclude that. But the game's over. It's 34-17, and then Oregon turns the ball over 3 times. There's that Chris Hudson fumble and the 2 dumb picks by Anthony Brown. And DTR plays out of his mind. He gets the UCLA goes 5 of 7 on 4th down conversions. It's just like, it's bad for him to call him getting lucky, but there's some lucky stuff from UCLA, and also just give DTR the game ball. Like, I mean, he was just that was his best game he's ever played.
So then, would you argue that if we didn't have our errors in that time period, it probably would have been an even bigger blown out?
Oh yeah. Like, that game probably should have ended something like 34-20.
So in true Ducks form, the team that can best beat us is us.
That's always. I mean, look at the box score. Here,
I know.
I come up with my own stats because I'm charting the game and excluding certain things and recategorizing plays.
Quack facts, if you will.
There you go, baby.
I'm correcting the box score. But if we just go with the raw box score, I'll look at it. Oregon, when passing, it gets 7.6 yards per pass. UCLA gets 5.3. Oregon's 2.3 yards per play better. In rushing, Oregon's getting 5.0 yards per rush. UCLA is getting 2.6 yards per play better. Like,
twice as much.
And 2.4 yards per rush is really bad.
It sounds terrible. It sounds like you can't get a first down with that amount of running.
Correct. I mean, unless you're going for it up for it. Yeah.
Yeah, like Oregon just, on a fundamental strength basis is a far better team than UCLA. And, the stuff that happens to keep it close is Chip Kelly at the beginning of the game and Anthony Brown interceptions at the end of the game. Yeah. And like, you just have to live with Chip Kelly. But I mean, it's the point that we keep coming back to with Anthony Brown is like, the guy's 75% of an elite quarterback. Like, there's good stuff. Like, he's running the RPO offense pretty well. He's, he seems to be totally over whatever was keeping him down in the Arizona and Stanford games.
He's guaranteed at least one long game-winning touchdown.
He runs really well. And here's the other thing. UCLA is really terrible at defending screen passes, just like absolutely atrocious about it. Like, I highlighted it in my preview article, and then I highlighted it in my review article. If you pull those screen passes out and just look at the downfield passing, the stuff that the quarterback does, where he's got to read the field and, make an accurate throw. It's 15 successes versus 15 failures. Mm-hmm. And there's no gray area. There's no like, oh, that was an okay play, or oh, that was technically a failure, but they still got 4 yards. It was fine. No, there's 15 NFL throws, and then the failures aren't entirely his fault. Like, there's a drop, and one time the blitz got through, but they're mostly his fault, and they're mostly him just throwing a terrible pass, or an interception. And it's like, Jesus, there's no middle ground with this guy. He's either throwing, and I mean, the good throw, like I said about the good throws, they're not like anybody could make that pass. They're tough throws. Like, he's really got to read the defense. He's really got to, put a throw with the appropriate arc and the appropriate zip, and he's got to lead the guy. And like, I put a couple of clips in my article, if anybody ever saw them, where it's just like, this is an NFL throw, and he's doing, and he has several of them. And I'm not talking about screen passes. Like, his completion percentage is sort of inflated, and he's 29 for 39, but that's inflated by how many screen passes they were throwing in this game. The real downfield passes, it's so bizarre because it's split right down the middle between NFL throws and like, Pop Warner quarterbacks would be pulled, for that sort of stuff. And it's maddening. And yeah, that is totally why UCLA, came back from a 34-17 deficit.
Well, I just want you to know, if it gets so maddening that you feel like you need to express yourself through cursing, I've decided to make a definitive statement for the Quack 12. We used to say that this podcast was not for kids unless they're cool kids that were down with hearing some swears every once in a while, and then we started to lay back on the cursing. But following our team itself, which I have 3 choice quotes here to prove that if you're an Oregon Duck fan, you're all right with some fucking foul language, pun intended.
I was just about to
Well, this is one, right before Travis Dye's first touchdown of the evening. Run the fucking ball. is what they had him. I guess
yeah, that's what he said. That's what they reported.
I love that they reported it. They're like,
to
run
the coach.
I think he said effing. I forget, but they censored it some way. But like,
I
love that they reported it.
Effing, yeah,
doesn't seem like something you'd have to report on the sideline, but
it's funny because they weren't like that. That was actually the most interesting thing about Oregon's offensive strategy in this game is that for every tranche of the field until they crossed UCLA's 10-yard line, they were passing at about a 15 or 20% higher percentage, more percentage points than they, so it's like, at the 50-yard line, they normally pass at a 45% rate. They were passing at a 65% rate in this game. You know what I mean? Like
it seemed like they were really, especially in the second half, it seemed like that was the plan, is to try to take advantage over UCLA's pass defense.
Well, yeah, they're just no. I mean, UCLA's defense is just not well. They have a number of vulnerabilities that Oregon was taking advantage of, and they all, many of them just happened to be related to the pass. And so, for example, they had a ton of, the cornerbacks were playing off on the, the outside, and so there's a ton of free access passes, which Anthony Brown can throw that pass really well. There's like 9 of them in the game where he throws either a flat or it's a little farther, like a 15-yard out, where like UCLA is just letting them have it. And Anthony Brown is hitting it every time. And like I said, screen passes where Oregon is like 80% success rate at screen passes and it's because of the structure of UCLA's defense. Just they put all the bodies in the middle of the field, and
so you could say that you agree with the great Kayvon Thibodeau, who was quoted during the interview, the post-game interview, uncensored because they didn't have time to censor it. They drew up a great fucking scheme.
Well, I do agree with that. He's talking about the defense, and I'll mention the defense in a minute because the defense played really well too. But on offense, I mean, the thing that I appreciated about it the most was that they did their film study. That they knew where UCLA was vulnerable. They and they attacked it. In terms of the A, free access passes, B, screen passes, and then when they got inside the 10-yard line, that was the other thing that I discovered about UCLA in film study was that they UCLA's explosive rush defense is pretty good. They keep you from getting explosive rushes, but what they don't prevent you from doing is getting efficiency runs. In that way, they're like Oregon's defense, and so they're passing the ball to take advantage of UCLA's poor explosive passing defense. And sure enough, they're getting explosive passes. And then when they cross the 10-yard line, they flip it around. I don't care if you can prevent explosive rushing because we're inside the 10-yard line. Like, by definition, I can't run for more than 10 yards. So I'll take advantage of your poor efficiency rushing defense and run the ball right at you. And sure enough, they run every single time inside the 10-yard line. They get a bunch of touchdowns. So this all goes under the heading of Oregon paid attention to what UCLA's defense did well and did not do well. They paid attention to what their numbers in the box were and attacked them or did not attack them, depending on that. Like they played a smart offensive game plan. They weren't trying to, force stuff. So anybody who's out there who's like, oh, Mario Cristobal's a meathead who only wants to do one thing and impose his will, it's like this game is very good evidence that that's not true.
Yeah. And you got to congratulate Washington State's future head coach, Joe Moorhead, for doing that. And
Oregon was 7 of 9 on third downs. Like, that doesn't happen by accident.
That's rad. One more quote here. Mario Cristobal said this to some fans in the Rose Bowl afterwards. He called their attention and said, hey, no more booing and Autzen. I don't want to hear that shit. So that's all 3 levels. I mean, that's the offense, that's the defense, that's the head coach. So we're allowed to fucking swear on this podcast.
Goddamn right.
That. Yeah. Now, sorry if you're at work. But.
And I'm glad for that quote to be the last one as well, because it does help me pivot into the question. Hythloday, how do you feel about Anthony Brown Jr.?
I feel like I think I said this last week. I'll just repeat it. He's like 75.
Well, yeah, I'm just looking for a weekly update.
He's about 75% of an elite quarterback. But
how do you feel about him?
I'm like, you're not paying me enough to learn my emotions. He's in the operating the offense bucket, the RPO reads, the pocket presence, scrambling, running the ball, all that stuff. In this game, he gets pretty close to 100%. In the downfield passing, we traditionally think of as the quarterback's duties, the Tom Brady stuff, standing in the pocket and picking out a receiver and throwing an accurate ball. He's like, he gets a 50% grade. Right. It's not good enough. It's an F. It's a, but what he does
overall down to 75%.
Yeah, it makes him like a 75% quarterback, which like if you're looking for an explanation for why this team can be 6-1, ranked in the top 10, have beat Ohio State in Columbus, and yet every game is a heart stopper and you're pulling your hair out. Yeah, having a 75% quarterback surrounded by a very talented team with a great pair of coordinators, like, yeah.
And throwing a huge amount of injuries at one specific position.
And speaking of injuries, the offense was the other. Many people deserve game balls. The Alex Mirabal, who damn near killed a couple of refs.
I loved that. It was a total like, let me at him.
I know it's great. Oh, that dude's carrying knives. Like, don't mess with him.
Oh no.
So many offensive line injuries, like they were playing, it would take too long to recite all of them. They're in my article. But like, they had TJ Bass, a guard, playing tackle. They brought in Dawson Jaramillo, a tackle, to play guard. I don't know why they didn't flip him, but apparently that's what they were practicing at that week. So like they decided to stick with it. And then the second half, George Moore comes off the bench. I don't know why he was on the bench in the first half. He plays left tackle. Jackson Powers Johnson, the true freshman, was playing left guard to start the game. Then he's a great dude. He gets injured. He has to go off. So they have to, get somebody in to replace him. And then, Jaramillo switches over the right. Like I recited all of this in my article. It's bonkers how much, Oregon really does have, when it's fully healthy, 8 playable dudes, and they're playing all of them. Like, and
I mean, this is the proof of what they've been trying to build, right?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I have been very confused by it because it's so unusual. I always comment on it, like, this is really weird, and yet hardly anybody laid a finger on Anthony Brown, right? Oregon's rushing effectiveness was very high. Like, there's a couple of plays I put in my article where I think the offensive line wasn't blocking, great, but they happen early. They sort of like clean up some stuff, and it's just like any other team that's dealing with this level of offensive line weirdness would be in the gutter, and that's not happening to Alex Mirabal's offensive line. So like, way to go, dude.
Yeah, I agree.
But I asked you about the quarterback.
And he gave me an answer.
Let me rephrase it so we don't get on a tangent of offensive lines from quarterbacks. Do you think it's time to replace him? If you were coach, would you
I can't answer that question because I don't know what Ty Thompson's error rate is. Like, for all I know, Ty Thompson would get out there and throw a pick on every down. Like,
okay, so you're still in camp Anthony Brown Jr. I like
it. I'm not in any camps. I absolutely despise the tendency of football fans to try to shove everybody into a love him or hate him relationship.
You have to be, though. It's the game.
I do not. I reject the premise.
Aaron, speaking of premises, we try to bring conspiracy to every episode we do, correct?
You do, yes.
Well, I mean, you're kind of conspiracy. I'm doing it for you,
and I'll tell you if there's one there.
I'm doing it for you. This week's conspiracy, brought to you by Bruins fans, salty Bruins fans, is that actually they made a field goal that they said they missed early on. And if they would have gotten this field goal, then technically it would have been a tie game at the end. And that would have changed everything, apparently. So we got it right here.
Oh, shit, okay.
For you. This is so obviously second quarter, 8 minutes, 12 seconds left. Off the boot. And, I mean, it looks pretty wide left to me from the camera angle. But then we got, I'll try to, y'all seeing.
Oh, this is going to be
our
one of the
competitor.
from
We
like a
can't show
fan
him.
perspective.
Yeah, there's a more because that's always the best thing is when you get these like, but here's the alternate angle. That's what we want.
Yeah, the alternate angles usually tend to have a bad frame of reference for what.
And
so
sorry,
tiny,
it's
I can't
on
really
Twitter,
see
so
it.
it's terrible here. But you can see why people were maybe a little bit more. I can't really even make it bigger, but this is what they're crying about. This is what I'm bringing to you in conspiracy court. Do you see anything here, Aaron?
It's too small to see anything, so I can't confirm nor deny. But I'm gonna assume two guys standing underneath the goal have a pretty good idea of where the ball is.
That's what I'm thinking.
So I'm
too.
gonna stick with whatever the ref said.
Yeah, especially when it says we win the game.
Exactly.
You see it here, though. I mean, they're right there. Both of them. There wasn't a moment of hesitation. And when have Pac-12 refs steered us wrong in the past? So
totally,
I'm gonna.
dude. They're always on our side, right?
Yeah. So we debunked this one, right?
Debunked. Great conspiracy.
We need a big like debunk.
Great one though.
Thing, you know. I try to bring you all the conspiracies I can get.
I appreciate it. That one was excellent.
You know I fucking love you, brother. All right, so let's get some final thoughts on this, because otherwise I don't really have too much to say. I mean, honestly, it was a fantastic game, because at this point, a close game doesn't shake me to my core as much as it did in even 2020, because we've already seen so many freaking close games. I'm already kind of thinking like, I've prepared myself for we may have one more loss in the regular season in us. That would be unfortunate, but ending 10-2 and probably Pac-12 North champions, that's good enough. Like I'm never gonna be too disappointed in that, even though this team could be, really great. So I don't get shook as much even in this game. We were down 14 points. That did make me think for a second that, oh man, this may be a truly terrible outing. But like all these games, our defense has really sharpened a lot in second halves. This one we fell off a little bit, but give DTR credit. When Kayvon Thibodeau is playing all 4 quarters, he just changes the game.
Baby.
Like Chip Kelly in college football, he changes the game, and it's fun as hell to watch him. And again, he's just like tearing through these quarterbacks. And I gotta say, I'm excited as hell against Colorado, because actually they just they fired their offensive line coach even, because they're having so much trouble with that unit, particularly protecting their quarterback. And now we're going to throw Kayvon Thibodeau at him. This may be the first game since like Arizona, or maybe you could even say Stony Brook, considering Arizona was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. This could be the one game that we actually get a pull away from our opponent. That being said, I still, for some freaking reason, think it's going to be a close game till the last minute.
If there's
a lot of
one thing I understand for sure, whenever you feel great about a game, it's going to be nail biter. We may even lose. So the fact that you're not super duper concerned has me shit scared.
Yeah. Well,
so I think this might be a freak loss, but I believe we're going to go 11-1.
I do. Like my logical brain, Hythloday still he's doing something. We'll throw him back in whenever he unmutes himself, but just so the listeners know. My logical brain thinks we're going 11-1 for sure.
I'm, however, very concerned because, like I said again, I actually, because of the way that game was played, I presumed UCLA was at a level that they are truly not at. Hythloday has given me a bit more concern with understanding that really it is a total 50-50 shot if we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Well, I mean, we still got so much talent.
Thing happening on another team, and then we go in there. What happens to us is what we end, or what I've seen through history. It seems as though when it's a surefire thing, we play a little bit softer. we end up losing.
Well, yeah. Well, Colorado,
So I'm
it's
concerned.
tough to say. It's in Eugene,
Oh.
where there will be, from what I understand, no more booing. So that should
0
help
boos.
us. Hythloday, any final thoughts in this Oregon UCLA game? We've been on a tangent here, but
well, we haven't really talked about the defense.
oh yeah, sorry.
Played a great game. It's a little obscured by the final score. Like I said, the opening drive by Chip Kelly, is really great script, and the defense doesn't look great in that. And then the end of the game, DTR, go. But like even then, if you look at the success rates in those last couple of drives for UCLA, it's like, it's a bunch of fourth down conversions. It's the defense succeeds on 3 plays and then UCLA gets a miracle pass. And like, there's only so much you can expect the defense to do about it. You sort of set that aside and look at the rest of the game. They're killing them. Like, the defense was playing lights out. And it's a nice that, you were trying to figure out what Oregon's record is for the rest of the season, and Aaron, you made a comment earlier. It's like only the Ducks can stop the Ducks, and it's like, yeah, man. I have the fundamental. We're now deep enough into the season that even though I haven't charted all these teams and all the games, like I have their play-by-plays, and I can run the preliminary data on fundamental strength, and like even the 2 strongest looking, or 3 if you want to throw in Arizona State, because they'll probably wind up being the Pac-12 championship opponent. Like all of them, Oregon grades out as having a higher fundamental strength than every team that would be left. And it's like, if the reason that fundamental strength is useful is the same reason that if you're looking at 2 people who are about to fight and you see that one weighs 280 pounds and the other weighs 100 pounds, like if Mario Cristobal versus Alex Mirabal, of course, Alex Mirabal has to carry knives. There's only one way he's winning that fight, and that's to cheat, like, or to, have some miracle lucky thing go his way, right? Like fundamental strength, tells you that Mario Cristobal would destroy Alex Mirabal in a fight. But what you can't do is predict whether or not, you can't predict, is Anthony Brown going to throw a string of 4 interceptions? You can't predict whether or not the opposing quarterback is going to play with his hair on fire. You can't predict whether or not the refs are going to do some weird stuff. Like all of these, the non-football factors, what metaphorically equates to the, secret knives in this fight metaphor. Like, you can't predict that sort of by definition. But what you can predict is fundamental strength, and fundamental strength, favors Oregon in every game they play or might play. Like, so I don't know how you bet on that. You probably shouldn't be betting. It's immoral and stupid.
Couldn't you just say if you restrict Anthony Brown from passing more than 15 yards, we're in the clear?
Well, you can't go. No, he threw an interception on a pass that was, I think, intended for 13 yards. So I don't know about that. And you can't like totally give up stretching the defense, because then the defense will change up the box count. But
right.
The football is interrelated. That you can't totally isolate any play from any other play. But like,
right.
There's, yeah, man. The primary thing. The primary thing that prevents Oregon from blowing teams out are mistakes that the quarterback is making.
Tragic.
And there's no way to predict. And the thing about the nature of football is that like those can be harmless mistakes. An incomplete pass on 2nd and 5. Well, it's still 3rd and 5, and they ran the ball and picked it up, and so that didn't really matter. Or it mattered in the sense that it wasn't a touchdown pass, but it wasn't a lethal mistake. On the other hand, throw an interception on the opponent's 30-yard line, like, bad stuff can happen. And like, you just can't, none of that is predictable. And if you have a quarterback who's prone to making mistakes, then it's a very high variance thing. I would not want to be in the business of predicting Oregon's, final 5-6 games. Like, it's just
on it. The game that probably scares me actually the most. Beavers are heating up, looking good. We'll get into that in a minute. But I am so freaking afraid that we're just going to have our worst game in Seattle and we will lose to the Huskies. Because I think we can.
Say that.
I think we can basically lose to anyone on our schedule. We could. Like, I don't think it's not like Alabama going through there. Like, we just look so mortal.
That would be super humiliating, obviously.
Yeah.
The thing that gives me, actually, the UCLA gave me a lot more optimism about that one, because it's really, Washington is a team where it's really, really clear what they're good at and what they're bad at.
Awesome.
And there's no sort of muddying the waters where you could talk yourself into into making mistakes. I mean, from a strategic perspective.
Right.
With Washington, it is crystal clear what your strategy ought to be, which is running the ball. I mean, it's how Arizona almost beat them, and I think Oregon's a little better team than Arizona.
It was close though.
And all you have to do is have better cornerbacks than Arizona had to prevent their occasional deep pass, which Mikhail Wright and DJ James are better cornerbacks than anybody on Arizona's team. So like, Washington doesn't really, and the reason the UCLA game gave me hope is, like I was saying earlier, that I was sort of pleasantly surprised by how much Oregon adjusted its strategy to UCLA's defensive weaknesses. So like, I'm going to assume that that's a pattern, going forward, that Oregon will be strategically wise in its offensive play selection.
Right.
So Washington's not the one that worries me. The one that sort of worries me is, of all of them, is Utah. Because that's a game.
That's in Salt Lake City, right?
Yes, that's true. But it's hard to get a read on Utah because of their quarterback change. Like, a lot of their, we have less useful data on them, because like all of their losses were non-Cam Rising losses. And the other thing is, I haven't charted Utah. Like, it's just been a quirk of the schedule. Like, they haven't been a team that played a team that was about to play Oregon, if that makes any sense.
And haven't they looked kind of like iffy up until
they started out that way?
But that's when they were not playing Rising, and that's what Utah fans will tell you, is like, well, if we started Rising at the beginning of the year, we'd be undefeated right now. And I'm like, well, I don't, but like, I haven't charted them, so I can't gainsay them. My point is merely that they're a low data team for me right now, and so that's what worries me. I'm the type of person who's comforted by having good quality data, and I don't have much for Utah, so that's why they worry me. Everybody else,
you're telling me you prefer science to just believing?
That's
Aaron,
you're the heart.
Yeah, philosophically, I identify as a positivist or post-positivist. Yes,
sure.
Well, there you go. Well, we're already talking to them. Let's talk about these other 11 teams in the Pac-12 in our most famous segment,
Bottom 11.
That's right, it's the bottom 11. Aaron, we had a lot of games going on this last week, and we had some non-Pac-12 teams involved.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. We started it off Washington against Arizona, and as Hythloday already talked about, I mean, we wanted it to happen. We wanted it to happen so bad. We wanted Arizona's first win in a couple of years to be against Washington in the desert, like it usually happens. And it looked like there was a possibility that it would. But the Huskies pull it off 21-16. 21-16 against Arizona. They scored 21 points without our man McLeod. So,
and it was a late comeback too. Like, Arizona was leading for almost the entirety of the game.
Wait, and Arizona's like total poops, right?
They are, they haven't won a football game since like freaking.
And they were leading the Huskies, and you're concerned that we're gonna lose to the Huskies?
Yes, I am. That's why I'm concerned, is because they look so bad.
I mean, it would be it may be a low priority event, but it is an absolutely lethal consequence event. Like, if Oregon loses to Washington, just shut the program down,
Well, and Aaron, I'm always saying, if we have a really bad season, I want it to be truly bad, and I want our only 2 wins to be against the Beavers and the Huskies to humiliate them. That's what they would do to us. Get their stank over us.
That's, I guess, maybe.
I
just feel like this is a part of that whole thing where, for some reason, people in Oregon just tend to dislike people in Washington, when people in Washington are like, Oregon, y'all are cool.
Yeah, well,
it's like
we're aggressive.
Attitude that I receive from Washington fans.
We're aggressive as hell. Yeah, from fans. So that was a game. Damn, these teams suck.
Wow, man, I might try to find that in one of those Pac-12 and 60 or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Then we had a Coug fight, classic Coug fight.
Ooh.
BYU goes to Pullman, Washington, and they get the win, 21-19. I believe this is their fourth Pac-12 win.
It is, and they still have one to go. The closer against USC,
and they're probably going to beat USC because everyone's probably going to beat them.
Texas Trojans are falling apart, huh?
Yeah, they bad. That's a little sneak peek for
they bad.
But BYU versus Washington State. I mean, hey, credit to BYU. It is pretty cool what they've been able to pull together. Washington State also, it's like kind of crazy that they were even able to keep this a close game considering half of their staff is gone, including their ex head coach, who it doesn't sound like his lawsuit against Wazoo is going to go too well for the religious exemption for the vaccine thing. That's what I heard.
Shit, he's really trying to pull that?
Yeah, he's suing his school. He sounds like a classy dude. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
So there you go. Cougs win the Coug fight.
Great.
Colorado versus California. This one I remember had me on the fence here. We had just played California, obviously. And it was competitive against us. Colorado has looked so terrible on offense. Obviously, they've had offensive line problems and just uninspiring kind of just everything. But it looked like, hey, maybe this would be competitive. Cal beats them 26-3.
Wow.
Is there, like, I know you shouldn't set these random bars in games because you don't know, like, there's a million things that could happen, just like you said, Hythloday. But if Colorado scores more than 13 points on us, I mean, maybe that means we get some backup defenders out there. But I don't want it to be a 31-24 game. I will be so upset if suddenly their offense comes alive against us.
I'd accept that if you limit it to offensive scores, because there's always special teams or whatever. There's high weird randomness about that. But if the offense marches the field twice against Oregon, then fire everybody. Like, it is astonishing how bad this offense is. Here, let me run. I've now charted all their games.
Oh yeah, please.
Their overall success rate is 33.5%, which is literally the lowest I have ever charted in more than a decade of doing this, including FCS teams.
Wow.
It's their third down conversion rate is 26%, which is like pretty close to last place in the country.
I could get them up to 28.
Yeah, they give up 3.2 sacks per game, which
wow. Thibodeau's gonna have a day.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I wonder. I don't want Thibodeau to have to play a full game, but I would like him to really just like let loose for the first half. Yeah, I know, like something like that.
Like padding a stat line with like a 30. I mean, Cal sacked him Colorado's quarterback 6 times. Like, yeah. It's
he's gonna feast is what we're saying. And California, they feasted. Then, as we all know, the 3-point win, which some conspiracy theorists out there should have gone to overtime or something, I don't know. 34-31, we win that fairly. And then the Texas Trojans, USC, Texas T, Notre Dame, they go Notre Dame, and they lose the way we knew they would, 31-16. There's talent on this team outside of Drake London. It's amazing how truly bad they look. Notre Dame has made a lot of mediocre teams look better than mediocre, but USC ended up just looking bad because they bad. That's
what a bummer.
And then
I was stoked on that at the beginning of the season too, when I learned that a bunch of Texas kids go out there.
Well, Aaron, is probably not going to change. They're probably still going to be able to recruit from Texas. And hey, it depends. Who do they get? Who do they get as their new head coach? Aaron, this is the game I watched though, because a lot of these games are on at the same time. This was the one that I was very, very much down with. Oregon State at home against Utah. It was Utah did build the early lead, I do believe.
And it wasn't just early. I mean, it was into the third quarter.
Yeah, I forget exactly. I mean, I watched this whole thing, but I do not remember too much of the specifics of it. But I remember a thrilling game, and Oregon State eventually just taking off to the moon and winning this thing pretty.
I mean, there was a block punt, there was some turnover stuff. Like this was actually a pretty even game, and in fact, I don't know, I haven't charted it, but I actually think Utah, if you look at the fundamental numbers, I think grades out a little bit better than Oregon State does. I mean, it looks like an Oregon State blowout at the end, but like it was a pretty even game.
Yeah, no, it was a really fun game to watch. Just a couple of things turned it. I enjoyed it, and I like seeing a competitive Oregon State. I like the idea that final game of the season will mean something, maybe.
Right.
Because as far as the Pac-12 North goes, I don't see why you would say they're not the number 2 right now. I mean, I think
it's over. I don't know. I haven't run out the scenarios, but I believe at this point we're like one game away from it being mathematically impossible for it to be anybody but Oregon and Oregon State.
Which goes to show where the rest of the pack is.
Man,
I mean, yeah.
Adam, you breaking down all of those games makes me realize one thing.
What's that?
I think I did terrible in picking.
Well, let's look into that, shall we?
The picks. The picks.
That's right. We got the great Quack 12 pick-off here. The contest between Aaron and I. As we got it all on the board here, I'll just get straight to the results here. So, Aaron, you got USC and you got Utah wrong. That was the one you got wrong.
Wow. I really thought I got like 4 of them.
No, you did. You got 4 right. So there you go.
Woo!
And then I got Colorado wrong. I backed them Buffs, unfortunately.
Good job.
So I'm gaining slowly but surely. However, you still have the slightest of leads. Aaron has 34 correct picks. I have 33. Pretty amazing stuff. You're still ahead.
Man, it's amazing that I tend to do this. It's wild because it's been apparent over the past hour of how little I understand.
Yet still you seem to understand it on a level that I don't. So
yeah. I mean, I'm here like just ragging on Chip Kelly, and then Hythloday comes in with actual knowledge, calling him a genius, and I'm like,
just basic duck knowledge too, my man.
He's a mad genius.
Mad
genius.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of mad genius, it's time to make your picks, Aaron Schroeder.
All right, let's do this, baby.
You are still going first. So we're starting it off October 30th, the night before or the day before Satan's birthday.
The Hallows of All Hallows Eve.
Right? Yeah.
No, wait, the Eve of All Hallows Eve.
That is weird. Is Hallows Eve, when they say that, is that the day before Halloween, or is Halloween
the eve of Halloween is
All Hallows Day is November 1st, so Hallows Eve is October 31st.
That's why you're on the show.
It's All Saints Day.
There you go.
All Saints Day is November 2nd.
We don't know anything. Well, on none of those days, October 30th at noon, Washington State goes to Tempe, and they take on Arizona State. Them Sun Devils, who are coming off a bye. My man.
Easy pick.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Sun Devils.
Because you're still your anti-Arizona ways.
Anybody but, baby.
I appreciate it. It's a weird situation. I think if Rolich was still there with this whole staff, I think this game could be a lot more competitive. I think what the weird state that Washington State is in seems to still be able to function somewhat, but I do think Arizona State is just a better team.
While I agree with you, I still not going to pick them.
Okay, I'm going with ASU. I think they're gonna, especially off a bye.
Yeah.
I got them.
Actually, you reminded me, and real quick, we don't need to sit here for all that long, but I will say I just watched a really fun TV show where the first episode was about the basketball player nicknamed Headache, who played at ASU and was doing the point shaving thing. Fascinating.
Oh yeah. Playing for the Mob, is that it? No.
No, it's called. It's a Netflix thing. This is why I didn't want to sit here because now I'm plugging Netflix. But it's called like Bad Game or something like that. But it's interviews him, his cohort, the guy that was making him do it, who's a total piece.
So
of
it's
trash.
a documentary.
Yeah, but it's like a TV. It's like, each episode's an hour long.
Yeah,
episode after
series.
that.
It's not a fictionalized recreation.
No, not at all. It's like them interviewing, showing clips, talking, like they will show like how he's doing it, and then it'll cut to him talking about like, yeah, man, I'm the point guard. Like if I play bad, the team plays bad. But he was able to always make it look like he's doing great because he knew how to put his own teammates in bad positions to where they don't succeed.
Just passing to the person who can't
definitely
shoot.
Seems metaphorical for Arizona State's football. So
yeah. But anywho, it's really fascinating. It was really fun. Made me think of it.
But
fun. Also, I can never be a fan of Arizona.
Okay.
I think this game's really like interesting. Like I think Arizona State probably wins too, but like I don't know, both of these teams are really hard to get a beat on. Like Arizona State is not this, giant killer. They have a bunch of like real fundamental flaws to their team, and then they hit an explosive play and everybody forgets about them. And it's a team that sort of reminds me of Utah in 2019. So anyway, I think this game, and Wazoo similar is like really difficult to get a beat on. Like they look dead in the water, and then they put Delora back in and fired their coach, and then they're on like a 3-1 streak. It's just like, I don't know. Should be an interesting game.
Beat us somehow. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, I am excited about that one. And luckily I get to watch Michigan State. Take on Michigan right before, because I'm actually excited about that. What's that?
Did the whole what coaches got fired? Was that Wazoo?
That was Wazoo. Yeah,
it was Wazoo's head coach, along with their offensive line coach, their quarterbacks coach, their cornerbacks coach, and their defensive tackles coach,
because they think Bill Gates is controlling their blood.
I just remembered all of that, and now I know I've messed up in choosing them.
You can switch. I'll get you one,
but I can't go for Arizona.
Okay, there you go. Up next after that, Colorado taking on the University of Oregon Ducks, number 7 Oregon Ducks at Autzen Stadium. Will there be no more booing?
From 4 to 8 to 9 to 10 to 7. Wow.
Or 10 to 9 to 7 or something. I don't know. Yeah. What you thinking here?
Well, obviously it's the Ducks.
It's the Ducks. I think we can all say the Ducks here, right?
That's right.
It better not be a close game, but it will be. Well, we already know this pick for you, Aaron. Arizona going to Los Angeles, going to the Coliseum, take on USC.
Texas Trojans.
Man, this is going to be interesting as hell. A team that cares but hasn't won in like 2.5 years or whatever, taking on a team that does not care but is way more talented.
But also their last 3 home games, they've gotten blown out by teams that they were far less talented, or their opponent was far less talented than they were.
And even though it's this USC team, if you're Arizona's coach, you got to be thinking like, hey, if I get a win, any win will do me, but a win over USC in name, that's something. Freaking USC's probably gonna fuck that. I'm going Arizona Wildcats.
I mean, you can't beat Aaron unless you make different picks.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Arizona
Wildcats.
Also,
I think it's smart to go the way you chose because of the way they played last week.
Against a better team than Arizona. I mean, Arizona's a bad team with not much talent.
So, but I do believe that this is actually a game where both teams the mental preparation is proving ground type stuff, because they both have like embarrassing things happening to them.
Yeah.
So I still think it's going to be the Texas T.
I personally think it'll be something like USC goes up like 21-3 or something like that for a while, and then they just like sit and like are just done basically.
Right, they go dormant.
But Wildcats ain't done, and they just like I don't know. It's hard to say this when you're thinking about like, okay, who's throwing the ball though? But
This is
I want to
either
see the Wildcats roar back because they care more.
Yeah.
But
This
I
is
don't know.
either the most exciting game of the week or absolutely the most boring.
It's probably going to be a USC blowout, and that sounds boring. But probably not because they suck. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Oregon State taking on Cal and Berkeley.
Oh, Beavs all day.
Going with Beavs.
Right?
I would think the Beavs. Cal has not beaten anyone very good, and I think the Beavers are at least good. They should be ranked. I think after this win, they'll be ranked, I think, number 25. What do you think about them Beavs against Cal and just in general, Hythloday?
It's I actually haven't done any film study on Oregon State.
That's right.
It's just another weird quirk of the schedule. I haven't really watched them at all. I don't know what to think about them. I know everything to think about Cal because not only did I chart all of them going into the Oregon game and then Oregon, but I just finished charting the Colorado versus Cal game. So I've watched every one of their games. Like I understand why Vegas set this line pretty close. Like it's practically a pick 'em. Like I think some of the ways that Cal is a pretty efficient rushing offense match up really well with the way that Oregon State is sort of struggling against the run. I don't know. Like I think this is going to be a close game. It would be extremely Oregon State to give Cal this win. Like that so fits with the sort of snake bit nature of that program. Like and like Cal's a really snake bit team too. So like who has worse luck? I mean, that's really here's my prediction for this game. Whoever has worse, both these teams are going to have some bad luck in this game, and whoever has worse luck loses. It's going to be a game that's decided by, a field goal is going to doink off the uprights or something or like somebody is going to be going in to score and and pull his hamstring, and they're going to be out their star running back and lose a touchdown. Like some like, oh my God, you poor suckers. Like, something like that is going to happen in this game. It's just sort of like both these teams are just so snake bit. Like it's going to happen.
So it sounds like this is going to be quite the most exciting game of the week.
Yeah, but it'll be in a way that makes you feel bad for watching it. Like,
right.
A game I'd rather watch, a game that I think is going to be more exciting, just because of the way they play, I think, and the desperation. UCLA at Utah. That's in Salt Lake City, Rice-Eccles Stadium, October 30th, 7 p.m. on ESPN. UCLA coming off a tough loss. Utah coming off a tough loss, but both of them can still win the Pac-12 South, but they got to beat the other in this game. So it's still all on the lines. DTR seems like he definitely got hit real hard a lot of
baby.
times. But he's resilient as hell. He's proven that. So who knows? What you thinking?
I think I have to go with the Utes.
Going with the Utes?
I think so.
I think UCLA is gonna bounce back. This is a tough one. I really don't know. But I think UCLA is gonna bounce back. Even on the road, which that's gonna be I still think it's gonna be a really tough environment. Because those Mormons know how to party.
Well, I guess is Chip Kelly tricky enough to confuse the Utes, really, right? That's the
Sure.
That's the question for the game.
I think he'll do. I don't know. I think DTR will have enough magic to pull off a win. I do think this game is going to be super close, though. Yeah, are you leaning one way or the other, Hith?
I'll lean towards Utah because I don't know what DTR's status is. Yeah. Like he really looked like he was just not able to play at the end of the Oregon game. And on the other hand, he's definitely taken some injuries that made me think, oh, that guy's done. And then he wasn't. So I don't know. Like I said, Utah's a low information team for me, but I'm very high information about UCLA. And I hate picking in that circumstance because I'm intimately familiar with all of UCLA's strengths and all of their flaws, and like if I can't balance that against a team that I'm more familiar with, then like I tend to exaggerate both.
I get it.
So I don't know. I'll just go with Utah because it's a home game, and I think they look like a more complete team, and I think that their loss to Oregon State was less devastating to them. That like UCLA's season was that game against Oregon. Like that was the save Chip Kelly's job game.
Oh shit! Do you think he's going to be gone?
I think
don't think so.
I think that UCLA is going to finish like 7-5, and it's going to be really hard to justify keeping Chip Kelly around.
Wow. See, now I feel bad for being mean to
But
him
if they
because I
had
just
finished like
assumed.
8-4 with a win over Pac-12 champs Oregon, like that might have been enough to save his job.
I bet you it starts the wheels in motion, but I bet you he's got at least another 2 years there because I don't think they have the guts to pull the trigger.
I mean,
yeah.
I hate picking like this. I hate it when people make 100% of their picks on psychological factors because it's just like it's made
That's
up
me.
nonsense. But like, I think that Kyle Whittingham is better at getting his team ready to bounce back from a loss than Chip Kelly will be.
Yeah.
At getting UCLA to bounce back after a loss.
I can see that.
Trippy.
Final game of the night. Washington going to the farm, taking on Stanford. This is a game. This is obviously like a wounded Stanford, a Stanford that has, I mean, they have one huge win, that's for sure. A huge win against the Ducks. Outside of that,
I would assume Stanford continuing to suck would lower our rankings because they beat us.
It definitely did for a while. I mean, people, I mean, it's the reason why Ohio State, a team that we went to their house and beat them, why they are ranked higher than us, even though we have the same record.
Yeah,
because
Ohio
lost.
State has a great loss, whereas Oregon.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever.
Okay, I'd like to phone a friend on this one, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Hythloday, I need some input. What are you thinking?
I think this game's going to be really interesting because it's like it's strong on strong, week on week. By far the best thing that Washington does is defend the pass, and the only thing that Stanford does well is pass the ball. So that's an interesting contest.
Okay.
Washington's huge vulnerability is that they can't defend the run at all. Stanford in the past has kicked Washington's butt because they love running the ball, but this year they're really bad at running the ball. So that's week on week. I don't know. It's possible that Stanford's passing attack overwhelms Washington's pass defense. That like Washington's pass defense is inflated by playing teams that aren't as good at Stanford at throwing the ball to undefendable wide receivers. It could be that Washington's rush defense is so weak that even Stanford's terrible rushing attack overwhelms them, as they have in many past years, right? Like remember in 2020 when Stanford, who did not look like a great running team, just ran all over Washington. Like I don't, beats me.
It's a tough game.
Yeah, strong on strong, week on week, are really interesting. Washington's offense in general is terrible. Stanford's defense in general is terrible. The one way that Washington scored points against Arizona was hitting some deep shots. The one thing that I would describe as fairly good about Stanford's defense is they've got a really good cornerback in Kyu Blue Kelly. So again, week on week, but then a strong on strong element within it. Like, yeah, it's a real tough one.
It's foolish to bet on this game. I'll tell you that.
It would be very foolish to bet on this game. I really don't know how it's going to go. It's again probably one of those games, frankly, like Washington's last game, that's probably going to turn on just an interception that comes out of nowhere, and that's it. Like and very difficult to predict.
Wow. Okay. Then I choose the Huskies.
Going with the Huskies.
I am.
My personal prediction, I'll add some extra juicy details in here. I think Tanner McKee throws 3 interceptions, yet Stanford still wins this game.
Wow, that's a hell of a prop bet. I can see it happening.
21-14.
Interesting.
That's what I'm
Do you think those 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown becomes of those, and the other 2, nothing happens with them?
Yeah. I'll say
totally.
One's a pick 6. That's how the
there
Huskies
it is.
get.
There it is.
Yeah. I like that.
Far out.
So there you go.
I mean, an
That's our
Oregon
picks.
fan's rooting interest is super clear in this game, right? Like, boo Washington and Stanford as Oregon's loss, so you want them to look good. So, like, give me Stanford because that's definitely what I'm going to be rooting for. And if I don't know the answer to a question, I just, if I don't know the answer to how a game is going to go down, I go with the team that I'm going to be rooting for because then I'm not in conflict.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I didn't even put that together. Right. Stanford beat us. So we kind of want them to keep being cool. So
Got
it
it, my
looks
man.
like we actually had a tough loss.
You got it. Quality loss.
How interesting. College football, the inner wavenness of it is fascinating.
It's very unlike the NFL or really any other major sport in that, like, the people who play in the postseason are determined by having a debate, as opposed to, like the NFL is just like, like it's a formula. You won this number of games and you had, or baseball or basketball or anything else. It's just like, yeah, we know who goes to the playoffs. You have to win the division or have the wild card, based on this. And in college football, it's like, well, let's see. They beat this team and lost to that team, but you have to remember their quarterback was out. And it's
you can make like passionate arguments.
Oh, dude.
Over it's like,
I mean, there's a reason why there's a million college football podcasts. It's because debate is a key element to determining the postseason.
But there's only 81 podcasts in Australia that are bigger than the Quack 12 podcast.
You
and I just want to bring
goddamn
back
right.
that was a huge win for us. Thank you, Chartable. Keep bringing us those tasty Australian clicks and subscribes. We're very happy to talk to all of our fans across the world, especially after this big win. We've got Colorado coming up. I believe if everything goes according to plan, we should have an old friend coming on the podcast later this week to talk with Hythloday and I about Colorado. Dive deep into their roster, check it out, see what's going on there, what's wrong. And also, if everything goes according to plan, go check out the Ralphie Report, which is our friend Jack Barsh. I believe Hythloday will have done an interview with them, talking probably more about them Ducks, with Jack we love. If you'd like to follow Hythloday, who again does film reviews for the website Addicted to Quack, in his articles Duck Tape, you follow him on Twitter at Hythloday1, HYTHLODAY, the number 1. And go to Addicted to Quack. Hythloday, as always, thanks for enlightening us on Oregon football, what we saw, what we didn't see. I'm excited for the season so far. I still think we're looking real good. And Aaron, I love you, and I love your new setup, by the way.
We'll see if it sticks.
I like it.
Yeah.
Very cool. I don't know. Listeners, if you can see this, if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know what you think of Aaron's new setup here.
I mean, I'm definitely more comfortable, that's for sure. But like, I can't get to the screen and
you can't really do anything, but just sitting back, puffing on that vape like
all I can do is bring up shit.
The caterpillar and Alice in Wonderland over here, but I appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show again, Hythloday.
My pleasure. Always good talking to you guys. Take care.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Quack, quack.